Alright, folks, new turns just rolled over. Turn 3 will come tomorrow at 8 p.m. There were no battles this turn, because if you'll recall, I was just kind of setting things up. A lot of turns in UltraCorps are like this. There's no actual battles sometimes. You just have things kind of setting up and coming a little bit later. So I did have my Ultranium dropped off from Gawe, and Gawe is... Zenra War Monks have actually come down in price, so we're going to kill that order and rebuy it to spend less money. These 3 assault shuttles can pick up those 3 A7 maulers exactly, with nothing left over. And then, to manage my fleets, what I find often is best is you go into... You assemble all the fleets you're going to be deploying this turn, and then just go into the all fleets screen so you can coordinate them. So right now I have a fleet assembled at every world that I own currently, and I also have a number of fleets in flight. So I can see here, Bethira is going to get hit by a little over 40 firepower this turn. That'll clean up these 2 planets very, very easily. And then I have a couple of 70 speed fleets, a 120 speed fleet, and an 80 speed fleet all set up, ready to go elsewhere. So we were talking about attacking Cabna first. So from Relay, we can hit Gawe in 2 turns. Not Gawe. I clicked on the wrong world. From Relay, we can hit Cabna in 2 turns. That's where I was going for. From Arion, we can also hit Cabna in 2 turns. So that's a little over 40 firepower going to Cabna. That should be enough to take Cabna and then bounce over to Kandra without a problem. It looks like Paladin has now started recruiting, but he has not yet moved out, which is a very interesting strategy. So if we look at the Xeron starting fleet, the Xerons start with 6 buggies, 9 fighters. So it looks like he just bought 45 Wormex. Huh. Interesting. He hasn't gone away, like he hasn't left the game, but he does seem to be staling. That may be an auto purchase. The game is set up so that if you don't make any moves, it will start buying things on your planets just to prevent you from being a super easy target, which is fair. But I don't think it's really stopping him from being a super easy target yet. Koneko on the other side of him is moving and buying things, and we can actually zoom out just far enough that we can see everyone's empires centered on me. We can see that we've got 6 worlds up here. Travail, who's very good, has 6 worlds. Xenofruit has 3. Placid Platypus has 4. CFRT 2007 has 2. Koneko has 2. And Paladin has 1. And of course, we can also see that information through the watch list. So, we've got our fleets deployed. We're not actually building anything on Arion right at the moment. And this might be a decent time to start buying Gigantoplanet attackers. So we could buy 1, but it wouldn't cost a whole lot of money. So what we actually want to do here is lock 1 in, especially because we don't have any other carrier fleets coming in just yet. So we don't need more Sentinels of Garsasso first off. What we need first off is X8 assault shuttles now to start stripping this planet and bringing troops back to Arion. So we're going to buy... what's the price like on them? Price is going back up. So we're going to buy 2, and then we're just going to lock in as many more as we can, and that will start ferrying Ultranium and population back to Arion. Relay has very low population and low population growth, so we're probably going to leave that at first and have them just start shuttling over Ultranium. As we build more and more X8 assault shuttles and add them to the fleet, they'll naturally start taking population away until Relay is being fully stripped every other turn and turned into just a temporary supply dump for Arion. Gawe is already in the process of being stripped. This fleet, once it lands this coming turn, will take, I think, everything. I think basically everything, because that's 660. That's over 100 Ultranium. Its RER is 154, so this stockpile will grow a little bit, but it won't grow to over 400. So this fleet will take everything that's on Gawe, I think, including the 17 Zenran War Monks, and pop it back to Arion, which makes it a good time to start a Gigantoplanet attacker. What we want is to leave... We want to spend all but 120 Actually, it will be less than 120 because our population will grow. All but 80 population, ideally. So we can just finish the Giganto Planet Attacker at maximum efficiency next turn. Now, the GPA has 400 carrying capacity, and these Zenran War Monks that we're bringing over, 18 of them, only cost 1 carrying capacity. So we can afford to build ground units. In terms of Ultranium, we don't want to spend a ton of Ultranium if we don't have to. A7 Maulers, however, have been going up in price every turn. Sentinels have actually stayed level, so you can look at more detailed information in the unit cost history here. And this tells you what percentage of the total population being used are being used on a specific unit. So A7 Maulers, we've got 7% of the entire galaxy that is producing anything currently, producing A7 Maulers. That's why the price is going up. And 14% producing all-terrain rovers, so we definitely want to stay away from them. A202 scouts are going down. Boron recon buggies are going down quite a bit, actually. They're becoming quite price efficient. CR Org 2s. CR Orgs haven't been unlocked yet. This is a high tier capital unit, so it's not available till turn 6. E-class suicide fighters are going down. EDM sensors are going down. That's nice. The GPA, of course, is going down because nobody's been building them yet. What about other chaff fighters? Nozama fighters are staying the same. Super Space Fighters have actually gone up slightly because people have been building them. They're kind of an efficient mid-tier. Lots of people like to use them. X5s have gone up, but X1s have gone down. I'm sorry, X6s have gone down. X7s have gone way up because of all the Entradishar, not the Entradishar, all the Ectonians and Zerons wanting to buy them. And Zenran War Monks have gone down, which is always interesting. This, right here, this disparity indicates that, well, it indicates two things. First of all, Zincho Mystic Breaths are a lot more complex than Zenran War Monks, so the fact that a higher percentage is being spent on the upgrades than on the monks isn't surprising, but it does mean that the Zenran players are starting to upgrade their monks. So they're upgrading them to Zenran Fighters, which are a fairly high-class chaff unit, and pretty soon they'll probably, as soon as the Dinchofu Stealth Arts unlocks, they'll start upgrading them to Zenran Warriors, who are actually like a light capital unit. Zenran Warriors are really, really pretty good. So turn 8, I anticipate seeing that spike pretty high. And the Art of Silence will probably follow fairly shortly afterwards. So in terms of production, what we want is light ground units that can help support a GPA that we're building. I don't really want to buy a new license if I don't have to, but I'm not really liking Sentinels of Garsaso, so I think I will. I think I'm going to buy... War mechs have gone up in price. Rovers are still relatively efficient for money, and the license for them is cheap. This can be one reason why you end up with a lot of these things built in the early game, because the license cost is low. And in the early game, license costs are a significant part of your expenditure. I'm actually going to buy the A202 Scout license. And I'm going to build... 20 of them will be 240 Ultranium and 600 population, so that's more than I can afford. I can build 15 of, not 115. I can build 15 of them. That'll leave me with 180 population. And then I think I can afford 2 more. That'll leave me with 120 population. I'm sorry, I'm doing math in my head. Honestly, a lot of UltraCorps involves doing math in your head, or with a calculator if you're a bitch if you care to use a calculator. So 120 plus 630, that would match up, but actually I have my population growth, so I can afford 1 more. So we're going to buy a total of 18 A202 Scouts, and then 1 Giganto Planet Attacker locked in. So, between my population growth, my current population, that should be completed next turn with almost nothing left over. Just a little tiny bit we can use to maybe buy 1 more chaff unit, and then we'll have 18 A202 Scouts, we'll have 18 Zenran War Monks, and whatever else we manage to squeeze in right at the end. And that will form a pretty substantial expansion force, actually. The A202s will give me about 16 firepower. The Zenran War Monks won't give me much at all because they're individually pretty pathetic, but they'll give me about 3 or 4. And then the Giganto Planet Attacker, of course, will give me its 20. So overall, we're looking at about 40 firepower, a little bit higher. It will be a little bit higher actually because units don't add evenly. Having more units in a fleet, and especially having a mix of chaff units and damage dealing units like capital ships, increases your firepower by more than the sum of the parts. So you will see these numbers up here don't end up being the sum of these numbers down here for that reason, because the firepower calculation takes into consideration that having a well-balanced fleet makes your fleet more efficient overall. Okay, so I think that's about all we need to do this turn. I will deploy the Tenacious Talon to Bethira to get a scanner there. And pretty soon, I'm going to spend the money to build an EDM 200 scanner on Arion. Not right now. Actually, I guess I could... How much money do I have left on Arion after all this? If I buy those 18... Because I don't need much money to buy the Giganto Planet Attack. It leaves me 146. Yeah, I need... Oh, no. License costs 100. Yeah, I'll buy the license today. Or this turn, since I have the option. And then the Giganto Planet Attacker we will get in progress. So. Yes, I think that'll be fine. Oh god, now I'm trying to remember if population is assigned if you can't afford to pay the cost up front. I think so, because I think it's still locked in as soon as you have the 0 there, so I think that should be fine. I'll tell you what, I'm going to cancel the license just because I don't want to accidentally screw myself up by misremembering a mechanic, which is always a possibility. So, next turn we'll hit Bethira. After we hit Bethira, the turn later we'll hit Piranus and Cabna. At that point, we'll have this fleet ready on Arion, and we will send that fleet this way to take Bia. And on Forsworn, incidentally, we should also deploy those fighters over here to Bethira, I think. Because Cabna... you need to go to... Nope, you can hold, because you're going to Cabna as well. Why are you going to Bethira? I clicked the wrong place for you. You're going to Cabna. So we've got about 45 firepower going to Cabna. It'll be reinforced by these units from Gawe. Next turn. Or I can send these guys to Piranus, depending on which I think needs the reinforcement more, depending on how much damage I take at Bethira. So I think that should be it. So yeah, next turn 1 world, turn after that 2 worlds, turn after that hopefully also 1 or 2 worlds. I can't hit Vector unfortunately, but I may hit, so I'll hit Kandra, and then at that point all my forces will be pointing in Paladin's direction, because the army from Cabna, the fleet from Cabna rather, will have swept over to Kandra and be poised to make the long jump over to Abrawari or Mira. We'll have forces from Arion moving on Bia, and this fleet will transition over towards Mimir. Might go through Arion to pick up more units on the way, but it might not. The goal here, since Soyboy has an EDM Sensor 200 on it, what we don't want is to launch a fleet directly at Soyboy from long distance, because they'll be able to see it coming. If we do launch a fleet at Soyboy from long distance, it should be speed 70, which is the speed of our capital units, of our Giganto Planet Attackers, which I actually don't think I have any doing anything but moving right now. You can see here my deployed fleets. Yeah, so the Stalwart Tooth. My GPA has a speed of 70, and so does my main transport. So that being so, the AT-03 is also speed 70. So if I send a fleet at Soyboy, what I want to send is 1 fighter, which is speed 70. And that will generate a report of a fleet name right here, and it will say how many units away it is. With a little bit of simple math, they can deduce the speed of that fleet and say, oh, if it's coming from wherever, and it will show where the fleet is coming from. So for example, over here, Gawe, we can see, oh no, that's an outgoing fleet. Okay, you'll have to trust me on this then, I guess. If you have an incoming fleet, it shows you the world the fleet is coming from. So, if you're on Soyboy, if you're Paladin 1991, and you see a speed 70 fleet coming to Soyboy from Arion on the turn after Arion had a Giganto Planet Attacker on it, then you say, ah, well, there is a chance that this fleet is a Giganto Planet Attacker carrying a bunch of ground units coming to attack my capital. And then you have to account for that. That means you have to keep defensive units here in case that's what I'm doing. In case I'm just launching a straight-up balls-out attack from Arion on Soyboy. So, the normal tactic is you don't do that. Instead, you send 1 fighter, and you move your actual fleet to this planet. And so, on the turn, Paladin's forces are concentrated on his capital, waiting to defend against your fleet. They defend against 1 fighter and explode it instantly, but in doing so, they can't move. Meanwhile, your actual fleet hits Flinch. You'll land on Flinch and you crush it with the weight of your massive power. And then, from Flinch, you can hit Mira, you can hit Quadesh, or you can hit Soy Boy in one jump. So he still has to keep his units here in case you're attacking, which gives you free reign to pick off other worlds, or to launch the attack if you think you can beat all of his troops together. So there's a lot of strategy involved in aiming fleets in UltraCorps. In fact, it's a big part of the game. So having larger scanners, ironically, sometimes makes you more vulnerable to that kind of trickery. If you don't have scanners, then what you're forced to do is simply pay attention to where all of your opponent's fleets are every turn, by basically comparing the firepower numbers on his worlds and where he was fighting last turn to what his firepower is this turn. So for example, let's look at CFRT 2007 over here. So he's got 56 firepower on Gunsmoke, mostly chaff, but with 1 Xeron heavy cruiser, so he's upgraded a cruiser. On Restyllian, he's got 2 Xeron medium cruisers and some Sentinels of Garsasso. He's captured this world turn 1. So these guys have been here for 2 turns. They've built 8 Sentinels of Garsasso. Is that 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8. I counted right. Which are complexity 8. So that's 64 complexity. So they built those last turn before this planet grew. It had 23 EI, 92 population, etc. So we can say, okay, so let's go to my watch list. His total firepower is 82. And I can look at his worlds and go, well, he's got 56 firepower here. He's got 26 firepower here. Yeah, that's all his firepower. He doesn't have any fleets moving at the moment. I can see all of his units, so I know where all of his fleets are. If next turn I go back to Restyllian and these units are gone, then I'll know that he's moving them, obviously. I won't know where, but I might be able to guess depending on what else is going on. Similarly, we can look up at good old Placid Platypus. He's got 33 All-Terrain Rovers, so he's spamming them. 16 firepower on Platyponia. He also has a couple cargo boosters and a lot of Ultranium, so he, like me, has started ferrying Ultranium back, probably from Nitho, which has a surprisingly low amount of Ultranium. He's got 3 X5s on Nitho, so that's firepower and a half. 20 over here. He just took this planet, and in the process he lost a whole bunch of rovers and a mauler. So not too bad losses for what the planet was. And then down here, he has this planet that he took turn 1, and he appears to have actually left his super space fighters here and reinforced them with 4 more. So, he's got 23, 20, so about 44. That's about 60. About 62 firepower visible, and I can see here his firepower is 62. Yep, that's all visible. I can see all of his units. Nothing else is moving. So, by doing this, especially once you've gotten into a war, this is like complicated spreadsheet number crunching kind of thing, but, or well, not really complicated, but in any case, this is what you have to do, especially when you're fighting a war, is keep track of where your opponent's firepower is. Also, one thing that you might keep in mind is that generally having more invisible firepower is a sign of an efficient player. It's a player who's doing a lot of stuff. Now, not always. Obviously, like Travail here has a transport and 30 all-terrain rovers on his homeworld. Obviously, he's just about to move these guys out. Right now, he's got 21. That's another 20 or so, so about 42, 46. That is a fleet that just captured this planet. This is his main expansion fleet. He hit this world really hard, but he still took a bunch of casualties because they had some TK tanks, which hit pretty hard. So he lost, yeah, a bunch of his chaff. Total of about 10 firepower. So 3, 30, 52, 70 some odd. Between 70 and 80, about 75, yep, there he is. So, once again, all of his stuff is visible as well. Faster factions tend to have more of their firepower visible at any given time, because they tend to bounce directly from target to target. Factions like the Entradishar tend to have more of their firepower invisible at any given time. Right now, for reference, I have 105 firepower. I'm 7th in the game out of 30 some odd. And visible, I have 24, 26, 47, about 55. So I have a little over half my firepower visible because the rest of it is currently in transit. Most of it is heading to Bethira, and these guys actually have not left yet. So what's invisible right now is these 3 fleets, which are in transit. Those cannot be seen by anyone except the worlds they are currently targeting, if they're within scan distance. And of course, those are nobody worlds. They're neutrals. They can't see, but if they were players, they would be able to see here. Something to keep in mind, the base scan distance of a world is 25 without a scanner. So if Bethira was an enemy planet, they would be able to see Vanilla Totem. They would not be able to see Stalwart Tooth or Perfect Cobra, since those fleets are further away. You can use this if your enemy does not have scanners. You can use this to trick them and make them sad and scared and alarmed, etc. In any case, that's turn 3. I'll see y'all in turn 4. Okay, folks, welcome back to UltraCorps. It is turn 4. We captured Bethira this turn. Just going to skip through this battle report right here. They had 16 firepower defending. We started with 54 and ended with 47. We lost about 7 of our firepower, primarily in the form of 10 Sentinels of Garsaso. Also lost a couple of Super Space Fighters. So, we took Bethira pretty easily. We're now dividing our forces a little bit because I'm now 100% confident that Paladin is not moving. What that means is, since he's not moving, his capital planet here has completed an auto build of Wormex, so he's gotten his 50 Wormex. I believe he starts with 20, so that should be just 50 more. Yeah, he starts with 20, so that was a full order of Wormex that he just finished, helping push the price up, may I add. Pretty soon, he's going to be set. The administrators of the game are going to change a setting on him, or possibly it happens automatically after you've been non-responsive for a certain number of turns. And all of the worlds in his cluster, so the worlds closest to him, will start auto-building. Now, I believe the cluster size is 9, so it should be, if we look at Soy Boy, it should be the 9 planets closest to him, which leaves out these two. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All of those worlds will start building stuff. That's a problem. Not just because it means they'll be harder to take, albeit they will, but because it means they'll start using up all of their Ultranium, and so it can't be looted, which is what you want to do. So, I need to move into Paladin's cluster as fast as I can in order to get some of those resources before all the nobody worlds start spending it on massing up troops, and so that if possible I can take Soy Boy, because Soy Boy of course starts with 650 population, which is pretty good. That's a pretty good chunk of pop, and it starts with a variety of worlds close to it that can easily feed it. So Flinch, Kadesh, Serendipity, Einstein, all of those worlds, Mira, all of those worlds within 100 units, Jabrea as well, so they can easily feed Soy Boy resources and turn it into a useful production center. My first load of population will be hitting Arion this turn. We're the Pinion here, carrying about 200 population, 188 Ultranium. I had to dump off a little bit of the Ultranium to fit in some Zenran Warmonks, but that's fine. And my first Gigantoplanet attacker will be rolling off the line this turn. We'll add 1 Sentinel in, and then we're locking in a full order of 5 more GPAs. My capital world is going to start churning GPAs out at a rate of 1 per turn. Once we get this population here, I might, in a little bit later, be able to push that up to 2 per turn, because the GPAs only cost 750 complexity for Intradishar. Price has dipped and then evened out, so people are buying those. Of course, I've just started to buy them as well. So the Gigantoplanet attacker, yeah, so that may have actually been mostly me. 2.4% of the galaxy's population was building it. It might be me and the other Intradishar players together. CR Org 2s also started to be built this turn. Some Boron Recon buggies, since the price has dipped there, people are building them. A203 Crawler price is just going up and up and up. Scout price is going up. A7 Mauler price has dipped again a little bit, so those might be buyable in a little bit. And some people have been upgrading their stationary guns, apparently. They upgraded the Hue 9 to the Hue 10, which is a lot more powerful. 5 attacks, a lot more firepower, and a little bit more defense power as well. But yeah, we're going to be building fleets based around the Gigantoplanet attackers for the nonce. They are slow, so they require a lot of forward planning, but they're quite powerful for their cost. I mean, 20 firepower for 750 complexity and 140 Ultranium is value. Definitely value. Comparatively speaking, the other units that are similar to that firepower, like the CR Org, it's fast, which is valuable, but it's 3 times the price and takes twice the population to build it. The CR Org V3, the base unit already costs more than the Gigantoplanet attacker, and then you have to upgrade it twice, and the upgrades are pretty expensive too. Like the Acid Incinerator Cannon is 500 complexity. The TK helmet is 400 complexity, so there's a lot of investment involved in getting these units up to that level of firepower. The Gigantoplanid Attacker is pretty decent value for anyone because it's slow, and for Entrenachar, it's really great value. As long as, of course, you can, you know, eat the price. Megabot V3 once again, is very fast and high firepower, so it's a lot less flexibility than some of the other units, but it's a lot of bang for the buck. It's a lot of firepower. Hell, even the N-class battleship V2 is barely faster and has a lot less carrying capacity. That costs 1100 complexity, and at the moment it would be about 260 gold. I like N-class battleships. N-class battleships are also pretty good, cheap value capital units, but Gigantoplanid Attackers are just really, really, really good stuff. So definitely going to be churning some of them out. So we're splitting our forces in Bethira. This fleet is deploying to Piranhas. 20 firepower there. We're also deploying the 8 firepower that we've got here in this fleet to help. So Piranhas overall is going to be hit by about 29 firepower. That should be able to take it with moderate acceptable casualties. And then those troops are going to bounce over this way. My fleet is hitting Kabna. These 2 fleets are hitting Kabna, and then they will bounce over to Kandra, which will take them 2 more turns. So in 3 turns, they'll take these 2 worlds. This fleet, as soon as this Gigantoplanid Attacker comes out, is going to be launching over towards Paladin's cluster. We're going to be trying to take Bia, Eisenhut. We'll also try to hit Mimer and Abrawari as quickly as we can. I'm not sure how long that's going to take us. This fleet that we're building here with the Gigantoplanid Attacker is going to come out to about 37 firepower. So I could potentially, if I can build some fast units, hit Mimer in 3 turns. I'm aiming to hit Bia in 3 turns as well. So Bia has 24 firepower pointed at it right now that we'll be hitting in 3 turns. I will definitely need more. These X5 Raiders here, we'll be able to hit there in 1 turn, so we're spending 2 turns recruiting more of them. I'm locked at a slightly lower price than they're going for currently. That should give us about, like, recruiting 7 there. We'll have another 34 EI, so we'll be able to recruit 8 or 9 next turn. Yeah, that should give us about 20 X5 Raiders at the end of things. Yeah, about 20. Which is, you know, 10 firepower or so. So that should provide enough oomph to take Bia. I would like to also slap a few more reinforcements on it. I can hit Bia in 2 turns from Arion as well, so what I may do is launch this Gigantoplanid Attacker plus its carried units down to Bia to join that Gigantoplanid Attacker, and then the next one that comes off the lines will head for Mimer. Mimer is from Bia 85 units, so my GPAs can't make that hop in 1 turn, but they can hit Eisenhut in 1 turn. So we'll hit Bia, Eisenhut with that fleet. Hopefully we'll hit Mimer with another fleet at the same time as we're taking Eisenhut, and we'll push right on to Abrawari and Eisenstein, or we may make the jump straight for Soy Boy if we can muster the firepower to do it. Taking Soy Boy early on would be really nice, because it has a lot of valuable licenses, including the license for the Xeron Force Coil. If another warlord captures a Xeron world, the Force Coil license remains. So if I capture Soy Boy, I can then manufacture Xeron heavy cruisers, because the Xeron start with that license. If I recall correctly. I think they do. Yep, they start with that license. So yeah, if I take this planet, I can just stack some Ultranium on it, and then I can manufacture Xeron heavy cruisers. Now, the Xeron medium cruiser price has gone up a lot, which it tends to do. The Xeron medium cruisers are great, but I'm not sure they're 300 Ultranium each great. But, if you can upgrade them to Xeron heavy cruisers, then you're getting a 21 firepower unit that moves at speed 100 and has some carrying capacity. So essentially, a faster version of the Gigantoplanid Attacker for a total of 900 complexity, which is very, very worthwhile, even if it does cost a little bit more than just building the Gigantoplanid Attackers would. The extra speed, the jump in speed from 70 to 100, that's valuable. It's worth something. I absolutely won't turn it down. So I would love to get Soy Boy. That does mean that I'm going to have to end up with a bunch of these planets as well. Like, if I can take all of these, that would be ideal. I'm not sure I'll be able to manage it because Star Charger is also coming for this cluster. He's got his full army here. This is actually captured on turn 2. So yeah, turn 2 he had this force here, 21 firepower. He's then jumped down a whole bunch more firepower, so he's up to 39. He's got another TK bike down there. He's got a bunch more TK tanks, I think. 2, 3, 4, 5. He had 5 and 9 raiders. And now he's still got those 9 raiders. He's got some super space fighters, more TK tanks, and an extra TK bike. And was the Psyhauler there? The Psyhauler was already there. So yeah, he's reinforced this army. I would anticipate that this army is going to jump down here and hit Flinch or Kadesh. Like, I would expect that that's what he's trying to do. Because taking that would be very valuable for him. And there's no one who can really stop him. So expanding his borders down that way would be a real coup. Blind Date isn't a very tough planet, so he can take that just with some transported units from Twin Clouds pretty easily. These TK bikes have, of course, 220 speed. So if we center on Twin Clouds, he can actually hit Mira with them this turn. Now, he can't hit Mira with all his forces from Japakunda because the TK Psyhauler is exactly 1 unit of speed short. But what he might do is wait one more turn, launch the bikes from Twin Clouds, and then hop from Jamakunda right onto one of these planets and take them out. Because, of course, he sees the same thing that I do. And, in fact, he's clearly started planning for this one turn before I did, so he's a little bit ahead of the game. Which is fine. The Antradashar moves slowly, but they move with a very large hammer. The Gwir move very quickly, at least early on in the game, but they don't bring a ton of firepower to that very fast attack. At a minimum, I think I'm going to be able to secure all 4 of these, and probably also Einstein. But we'll kind of see. I may end up clashing with Star Charger here, and if I do, that's okay. If I do, that's fine. Fighting Star Charger is very much going to be an exercise in playing on the defensive here, while sending my slow conquest fleets to hit him in unexpected places in his home cluster. That will definitely be the way to play that game. Just because the Gigantoplanet attackers, like I said, they're a lot of firepower for what they cost, but they can only be in one place at a time and they move slowly. So you kind of really have to try to read the room 5 or 6 turns ahead when you're playing Antradashar. In any case, that should be the turn. I don't have a whole lot more that's going on right now. I've got all my fleets deployed. I'm waiting on Errant Mission is just sitting here waiting to see where they're going to go, which is Bia, basically. They're going to go for Bia in a couple of turns' time. Over here, Piranhas actually has a couple of fighter licenses, but that's not what I'm interested in the planet for. What I'm interested in is taking Piranhas, using Bethira to feed Piranhas Ultranium and some population, and then turning Piranhas into a production facility for fast units like TK bikes or Horak stealth fighters or something like that. So this will kind of be a minor secondary production node. It has fairly high environmental index and a reasonable amount of population. It'll be up to 300 when I take it, and then it'll take some population damage, obviously, but still close to 300. Bethira has a little bit of population and a lot of Ultranium. So what I'm doing here is I'm buying cargo booster license. I'm going to take 5 cargo boosters and set up an auto fleet feeding Ultranium and population from Bethira to Piranhas. And then on Bethira, I'm going to start building more X5 fighters, I think. So once again, yeah, I think more X5 raiders is the way to go here. Or faster transports. The problem is all the fast transports cost a lot of complexity, which I don't really want to spend here, so yeah. And Psyhaulers are quite expensive. Their price has actually gone down a little bit. Taps have also gone down a little bit. ATO3s have been going up, of course, because it's kind of a good workhorse. But yeah, let's buy the X5 license and build 3, and then lock them in. So yeah, so Bethira will do that, and we'll provide Ultranium to Piranhas, as well as, like I said, a little bit of population. We might strip the planet once and then let it recover. And Piranhas will build up to about like 400 or 500 population pretty quickly, possibly up to 600 or 700, and start churning out like, TK bikes, other fast units, potentially TK Psyhaulers to provide fast ground support to my slow GPA fleets. The thing to keep in mind, of course, is this is turn 4. The game ends between turns 29 and 31, so this is already, we're almost a sixth of the way through the game. And the name of the game, of course, is having the most worlds at the end. So definitely we're closing in on the time when we should expect to be getting into our first war. Once you've taken the worlds that are in your cluster, as it were, your first war should follow immediately in UltraCorps. We've got peace up there. We do not have peace over here, but I'm not scared of this person. And over here, of course, Paladin is not moving, so our first clashes, I think, are going to come with people coming into Paladin's cluster in order to try and take some of those worlds, and I think this will be the battleground of the first war. We can look at the rest of the map. We can see probably, what is that? Looks like about half the worlds, or maybe a little less, have been taken. We can see everybody who's kind of in this chunk, because I've colored them all up. Everybody up here is still undifferentiated masses of red. But overall, if we look at the player rankings, which is, I'm not sure I showed this before, you can see how you're doing compared to everybody else in the game on a variety of different measures. So we can see here right now, I have 5 planets, which is up in the top half, tied for 5th, with a whole bunch of people. A lot of people have 5 planets. In terms of population, I'm actually not in the top 10. I am 17th, so I'm almost exactly halfway. This is just random luck of the draw at this point. In terms of firepower, I am pretty close to the top. Koneko 314 has the most firepower, but does not have the most worlds or anything. He has 5 planets like I do. His population is... what's Koneko's population? Actually less than mine, 1217. Because he destroys population, being a Arachnon. And you can see net worth, which is a combined value of your firepower and your number of planets and the population, etc. It's basically a judgment of how many resources you currently have. I'm not surprised to see Travail up at the top. That's a name that's very familiar to me. Placid Platypus is right there with me. Russian is doing quite well. He's another one of my neighbors, actually. He's 3rd in terms of net worth. He has 6 worlds, and he also has more firepower than I do, so he's doing quite well. Props to him. I'm not sure if is this his first mega? Yes, he actually joined just a couple of days ago, so bully for you, man. You're doing really well. Good job. Beyond that, you can also see, interestingly, in not rankings, but there should be, yeah, notable battles. This can be fun. You can just see what the longest battles this last turn were, the biggest battles, and how much firepower was destroyed. And you can see that for every turn in the past. So right now I can look at Jingtran and say, Xenofruit appears to have sent his incinerators completely unfoddered into a nobody world. So OSAA2 incinerators are very tough. They have a high defense value, like all capital units, but their offense is crap, and they kill a ton of population. They kill 8 population each every round. And they don't do much damage. So, watching this battle, they slowly got kills while also slowly being whittled down. And yeah, they actually killed all of the population on this planet inside of 5 rounds. And then eventually won with 3 incinerators remaining. Ouch. That is painful. And that was a significant loss for Xenofruit. I wonder why he did that. I can't help but think that must have been a timing thing. Like, he took this planet just fine, like, no trouble. That's what you expect. Droxoid has spawned a whole bunch of extra population because of the Arachnon special mechanic where they spawn population for killing people. He's got a bunch of scuttlers kind of sitting around. But yeah, he's just sent all of his capital units, just launched them off on a wild goose chase to hit Jingtran, which is actually in whose cluster? It's actually in Koneko's cluster. Koneko is another Arachnon. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. And how much firepower does Xenofruit have? 31. So 31 firepower there because they spawned all those scuttlers. 46. 48, 78, about 90. Yeah, he's got about 20 firepower moving right now, so... Huh. Interesting, interesting, interesting. In any case, that's the turn. In the next couple of turns, I'm going to switch away from doing the whole turn on screen and just move to reporting what I'm doing. I kind of did that already here because I'd already made some deployments. But just for the sake of time, because every turn so far is taking about 20 minutes, I'd like to get it down a little bit lower than that. That said, UltraCorps turns take a long time. There's a lot that goes into them. So we'll talk about that later. I've also, in case I didn't mention, I've started deploying auto fleets from Relay towards Arion as well. First feeding Ultranium, a couple of them will just be feeding Ultranium, and then after that I will shift some of them to also feeding population. I'm going to strip this planet like I'm stripping Gawe to just concentrate everything on Arion and make use of it all. So, thanks for watching. See you all in turn 5.